It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Tuts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
It is feeling somewhat more dangerous than normal around here because we have a large hedge outside our house on the other side of the road, anyway, and there is a wasp nest in it. And I like to play nicely with all the creatures in nature, but I don't want to go anywhere near wasps, so I'm good.
I reckon you should get a tennis racket, hit it, see what happens.
I've seen my girl. I don't mess with any buzzy insects.
But wasps are they don't play games, and they're in charge, and they will let you know about it. Neil, we have reached unbelievably the end of the division previews this week with the NFC West. Some would say the best division in football, or the best in the NFC at least. We're also going to do a first round mock, what you have picked, and I've got ADP up, and we can kind of discuss and review certain things related to that. That will mean once we're done, it's predictions, and then week one, which is insanity, really, I think.
I still think it feels like the Super Bowl was about a week ago.
It's amazing what hot weather will do to adult male brains, of which we are both. So there we go. Neil, let us get on with the show, and let's look at your first round mock. So what we thought we'd do today is basically we're in the final stretches of drafting in redraft leagues. So we thought, what would 26th of August here, and we want to know what Neil's top 12 is, what his first round mock would be. So Neil, do me a favour, let's just do 1 to 12. I'm not that fussed on the order of your first round mock.
Well, if I may, I will refer back to what it was, my first round mock in May.
Please.
And that was Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Najee Harris, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams. So that was in May. Specifically the 26th of May. So, do my maths for me.
3 months. Exactly.
3 months ago. Right? So, as of today, my first round mock is Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Devontae Adams.
Just to do ADP before we look at what changes Neil's and make some thoughts on that. The ADP right now is number 1 Jonathan Taylor, 2 CMC, 3 Austin Eckler, 4 Cooper Kupp, 5 Derrick Henry, 6 Justin Jefferson, 7 Najee Harris, 8 Dalvin Cook, 9 Jamar Chase, 10 Joe Mixon, 11 Devontae Adams, and 12 Stephon Diggs. Neil, in the previous one you had 3 running backs before wide receiver went off the board. Now you've only got 2. What's the drop in Austin Eckler for?
I don't so much think it's a drop in Eckler. I think it's more a rise of the others. Mm-hmm. I just believe that there is more upside in the dominance of their role for Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, whereas I think Austin Eckler has said himself that he would like to be spared some of the menial work, some of the empty calories, the empty calorie touches, and the Chargers obviously hoping that Isaiah Spiller can go into this role. I still think Eckler is going to be excellent. If I would happily take Eckler. I just think that I would rather have the other people ahead of him. Taylor and McCaffrey are in a tier by themselves, and then I want the wide receivers. And it's not a knock on Eckler.
If you pick second, are you really comfortable taking CMC? Is that a boom or bust pick? I.e., you either win your league or you don't make the playoffs based on his availability.
Well, Jonathan Taylor was the runaway RB1 last year, and I think he averaged 22 points per game. When Christian McCaffrey has played over the last 2 years, he's averaged 25. So if he plays and if he is healthy, he is a cheat code on what is a bad offense. Because he's pretty much him and DJ Moore, and that's it. Whereas, if he gets injured, then you're screwed. But you are still, and I have checked, and most formats allow you to draft other players. So you are allowed. You don't just have to say, "Oh, well, that's it then. Your RB1 spot, that's it. It's blank for the rest of the season." You are allowed to draft other players. It would just be you'd have to get an awful lot right to still win your league if you take Christian McCaffrey. But the upside is there.
In one of the major changes in yours and against ADP is your position of DeAndre Swift. In yours, in relation to where you had Joe Mixon previously, I guess. What's moved Swift into that first round, and what's moved Mixon out?
I just think, again, I was probably clinging to some vague hope that Joe Mixon would see his passing down work. But I think it's blatantly obvious that the Bengals don't want him catching the ball. They want to use, hopefully, Chris Evans, not Samaje Perine, when they do throw the ball. So he'll still, easily lead the team in carries. He should get the goal line work when they do choose to run there. But I just think that I like the way the Lions are going, and I like the way that I think they want DeAndre Swift to be great. If you watch any of Hard Knocks, Juice Staley, who I'm not going to lie to you, I would crawl through broken glass wearing only his shorts and t-shirts for. He wants DeAndre Swift to be great. And I think Swift is slowly embracing this. No, you are talented. You can be a superstar. You could potentially go 1,000. Whereas I don't think there's any chance at all of Joe Mixon ever doing that.
Last few years, Travis Kelce would have been in this top 12. He's not there this year. Is that the end of this dominance from Kelce, do you think?
I think Kelce is still going to be the tight end one. Will be the tight end one again, because obviously he relinquished it last year to Andrews. Because I still think he's going to be... I think his snaps may come down this year than they have in previous years, but he's going to get the Jason Witt and Tony Gonzalez treatment, in which case, when he's on the field, he's going to be targeted at a high rate. He's going to be a red zone weapon. He's going to rack up the yak, probably not as much as in recent years because he is getting up there. I just don't find myself comfortable taking him in the first round, even based on the volume, because I don't think the colossal upside is there that it used to be. Whereas I think he's going to be closer to the tight end 2 and 3 than he's been in previous years. Not so much because he's fallen off, but also because I think other tight ends are pining for that role. So he's my tight end 1, and I really don't see that changing.
Final question, Neil. Was there anyone on the outside looking in who it was tough to leave out of this top 12?
Well, Joe Mixon's obviously a tough one to leave out because, as I say, I do think they're going to play a lot of up-tempo. They're going to keep him on the field. They're just not going to pass to him very often. I think this is an offense that's going to score a lot of points, so you want a piece of that, especially someone who's probably going to see a high opportunity share. Given that it looks increasingly unlikely that Alvin Kamara is going to miss time, I start wondering, does he become a bit more attractive? But you'd have to see an awful lot go wrong for other people for me to be confident putting Kamara in the first round at the moment. Second, third round, yeah, okay. First round, no. I think those days are gone because even the Saints beat writers have said he's not catching 80 balls anymore. So, you are losing a massive amount of value from him.
Fantastic, Neil. That's great stuff. That's the fancy bit done. Let's get on with the division preview. NFC West. Big preview. Big division. Let's see what's going on. Schedule. NFC South. AFC West. One NFC East team, one NFC North team, and one AFC East team. Same for each team. Biggest off-season headline. Big question. Fancy darling. Or fancy buyer beware. And when are they more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all? We start with the Arizona Cardinals. Biggest off-season headline: breaking news, Kyler Murray plays video games. The big question:
I ask the questions.
Can Cliff coach this offense to success?
The big question, of course, is, in my opinion, is can they play for a whole season? Because the last 2 seasons have started very hot, and then once Call of Duty comes out, they fall off. That may be a coincidence. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know. This team can score points. Defensively, they're still a mess because they're obsessed with tweeners. You know, they started with Hassan Reddick a few years ago, and Isaiah Simmons and Buda Baker and these people. You've got to put these people in a position, for God's sake. Yeah, the versatility is great. Yeah, it is, but they still ultimately have to go to one meeting room and sit there and learn their position. So, I think it's a talented team. It's a team with question marks over some of the offensive players. I do not think that Kyler Murray is particularly happy at this team. I think he signed the contract to get the money. But the way that the homework clause came out and then was rescinded, you put that out there to rescind it so you could show the world as an ownership group, as front office, we're not entirely sure we should be paying him. So we'll put this in we'll plant this seed. So when it does go tits up, we'll say, well, we did say, we did have a few concerns. I think they'll score points, but the case can be made that, they, like the Titans in the AFC, were very hot until they weren't last year, and then when they weren't hot, they looked very ordinary. So, as stupid as it sounds, this team goes as Kyler Murray goes. If he plays all 17 games and can retain the dual threat that he is when he's fully fit, then they can hang with some good teams. But if he can't, then they can't.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And yeah, there's a Call of Duty shaped issue here. However, there's also a general wear and tear. I mean, it doesn't. It's interesting because Kyler Murray is in an NFL sense tiny, but he doesn't get hit a lot and he does move a lot. But he's very good at getting out of bounds and whatever. But he does get injured, and that has meant drop-offs in the second year. I don't think they coach very well. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury's an NFL coach. Like, he got fired from a college team, was about to take an offensive coordinator's job at a college, and somehow became a head coach of an NFL team. As you said, the defence is not very good. And, yeah, I mean, in a world of how's that GM still got a job? Steve Keim's up there in the top 3, right? They have some good players, but they are missing DeAndre Hopkins for those first 6 games. It's going to be a massive miss. Okay, they got Hollywood Brown, Bakersfield Brown, whatever you want to call him. But does that do anything? I don't necessarily think it does. And that's a problem. So I'm not sure this team is as good as they think they are. I think there will be discussions, I believe, this time, let's say 8-9 months from now, maybe less, 6 months. If 2 teams a season hasn't gone as well as they have wanted the two, one in the NFC East and one in the AFC East, we'll be having serious conversations about how they get Kyler Murray to be their quarterback. Yeah, that's Miami and Philadelphia for those who aren't paying attention.
Thanks, Poirot.
Neil, fancy darling for the Chiefs, please, for the Cardinals, please.
Hello, darling.
My fancy darling, I've talked about in previous weeks. It's James Conner. The annoying touch squeeze situation we had last year with Chase Edmonds has gone, so it's not so much a timeshare. Conner showed last season that while he's not a target magnet as a receiver, he's efficient when called upon. He catches most things. He's going to be in the red zone. He's going to benefit from the fact that Kyler Murray is still a running threat in the red zone, so he'll get his work that way. I don't think he'll score 18 touchdowns, but 10 to 12, assuming this team can move the ball. I don't think it's out the range of possibility. So if you can get him as a running back 2, I think you've done very well. If the way you've set your draft up, he's your running back 1, you probably don't love your running backs, but you probably enjoy your wide receivers.
Buyer beware.
It's Marquise Brown, because I just feel that, is he going to get 140 targets this year that he got last year at Baltimore? No, I don't think he is, because I think there is significant target competition, especially when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, and he's never been efficient. So if you take his targets down, you're banking on efficiency, and you're not going to get it. And yes, I know he played with Kyler Murray at school. Don't care. He's not a player I desperately need, and certainly not at his current ADP. He'd have to drop before I become interested.
The Arizona Cardinals, more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
I lean towards not at all, just because of the strength of this division. And by strength, I mean 2 of the teams, not necessarily the other one. So it's not at all possible Week 18, but I do not see this team as a Super Bowl contender given their current makeup and with their current coaching staff.
We say regularly and have done that this team is a fast starter. Well, we will find out a lot by this team by the end of Week 5. And they play the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Rams and the Eagles all before the middle of October. That they could, the other game is at Carolina, who I think we don't think are any good. So, they could quite easily be 1-4 here, and this is a serious hot seat team. I think they're a not at all team, same as you, Neil. Although I think they're probably third in the division, but I think they're a long way behind the front 2, in my opinion. I think the front 2 we'll get on to will not be in the not at all camp, that's for sure. So yeah, it's an okay team that I believe has got major problems at GM and head coach, and because of that, they've got a bad roster. So yeah, not great, but we find out what you can do when you've got an exceptional quarterback. Let's move on to the Super Bowl champs, the Los Angeles Rams. Biggest off-season headline is the continued noise around Matthew Stafford's elbow. The biggest question?
I ask the questions.
I think it's the question you should ask for every Super Bowl champ, right? Can they repeat?
Well, that all hinges on Matthew Stafford's elbow. If Stafford is healthy and good to go, then yeah, by all means. They've shown they can score points on everyone. The defense has playmakers at all the key spots. They don't believe in first-round draft picks, as we know. They don't, they hit on the lower rounds. This roster looks good again. They have Allen Robinson in the Odell Beckham role. Behind that, their wide receiver 3, their tight end, the receiving running backs, there's a lack of serious depth there. So we are banking on this team moving the ball, using Cooper Kupp an awful lot, as they did. Robinson will be an upgrade, as I say, on, if it had been Van Jefferson as the wide receiver 2. Still can't shake the thought that come November, Odell Beckham's going to be on this roster. So from a talent point of view, they are as well equipped to repeat as any other recent Super Bowl champions have been. If Matt Stafford gets hurt, all bets are off. But how many teams can you say that about? All the good teams. So I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC. NFC, as we know, is not very good, but they are among the class of it.
I think that's helpful, right? In terms of, this isn't the AFC. So that means, in some certain situations, there may be calls where they lose games which they shouldn't, or Matthew Stafford isn't healthy until late November. But that's okay, because you can still make the playoffs because you're in the NFC. I think the Odell Beckham Jr. shout's good. What I would say is that, this team, which, in the Sean McVay world, is predicated on having some form of run offense, had a truly abysmal run offense in the playoffs. And Cam Akers is back and hopefully fully healthy from his Achilles tear. As someone who's had an Achilles tear, not an NFL player, obviously, it took me more than the few months it took Cam Akers to get back on the field. But, you know, let's hope he's been doing those calf raises and he's in a better position to be healthy this year. They are an excellent team. They won the Super Bowl last year. Do I think they have a chance to win the Super Bowl again this year? Well, probably, because they're in the NFC. They have an excellent coach and they have talent that we know can win because we watched it. Would it be preferable if their best defensive player wasn't wielding 2 flipping helmets and swinging them around like he's a character in Mortal Kombat? Yes, it would. That would be beneficial. And I want to put my name forward for the jack these joint practices off. It's become a dick measuring contest and no one needs them in their life.
I agree.
Let's find out who Neil's fancy darling is on the Rams.
Hello, darling.
Fancy darling is Allen Robinson. I say where he's going at the moment, it's in, well, probably most people's. It depends. If you start running back heavy, he's probably going to be a wide receiver 1. If you go hero RB, then there's a good chance you're going to get him as your wide receiver 2. As I've said, the target competition is not really there. Cooper Kupp obviously is going to get fed. He has that mind meld with Matthew Stafford, but there are plenty of targets for Robinson to have. And stop me if you've heard this before, Allen Robinson has played with some absolute dog dirt quarterbacks over the years. This is the best of his career. So Robinson, where he's going, really like him to have a bounce back. If we assume that the Allen Robinson we saw last year on the Bears was oh my God, I hate being here, I cannot do this, and he wasn't washed.
There's 2 things here. One is this is the list of quarterbacks that Allen Robinson has had since college. 2012 he had Matt McGloin. In 2013 he had Kristen Hackenberg. 2014 to 16 it was Blake Bortles. 2017 he had the torn ACL. 2018 and 19 he had Mitchell Trubisky. 2020 he had Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky, and then last year he had Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, and he wanted no part of being there. The only thing I would panic is if I was a Los Angeles Rams fan would be, is it Allen Robinson who causes these teams to have bad quarterbacks? Because if it is, like, that basically means that Matthew Stafford isn't playing, and that's bad news. Speaking of bad news, let's find out who Neil is buyer beware on.
Cam Akers, say he came back from an Achilles injury, superhuman effort, he should be applauded for it. However, if you're on the field, you've got to look better than that, son. He was atrocious from an efficiency point of view in the postseason. It's not an injury we have seen players come back from and return to elite production. Donta Foreman did it. Took him 3 years, and Donta Foreman was never that great. Cam Akers has been a workhorse when he's been healthy for the Rams, but then when Sean McVay comes out and says things like, I think we've got 2 starting running backs, oh, Sean, piss off. We don't need that crap. So their running game, I'm not investing in it. As I said, I know they need the run, because that's how the McVay, Shanahan offense, it works. It needs a strong running component, and ideally he's done that with workhorses. He can have it, but I don't think the fantasy goodness is there with Cam Akers.
The Los Angeles Rams, more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all, Neil?
Super Bowl.
I agree it's a Super Bowl. What I would say is, if you love a schedule game, look at them from November 6th up until November 27th. They are at Tampa Bay, at the Saints, at Kansas City in that time. They are 3 serious games. I'm not 100% sure on the Saints, but still they're playing in that Mercedes Benz Dome or whatever it's called now. is no fun at all. And then also on the road against Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, not fun at all. I do think this is a Super Bowl challenging team, though. I expect them to make the playoffs, and if they're in the playoffs and you've got that muscle memory, then I would say, yeah, absolutely, for me, this is a Super Bowl contending team. Next team, the San Francisco 49ers. Biggest off-season headline. They have a new quarterback starting for them. The big question.
I ask the questions.
Can Kyle turn Lance into a star?
There's a worry that Trey Lance becomes that player that fantasy managers look at and say, he's great, but film grinders look at and say, if he didn't run, he'd be nothing. He is incredibly raw. We know this about Trey Lance. But they traded heaven and earth to get him. I hate using phrases like quarterback friendly, because surely all your schemes are supposed to be quarterback friendly. I don't want the quarterback.
They're not, though.
No. If there is a scheme and if there is a play caller that you would trust to put a quarterback in a position that the pressure will come off him because of the running game, it would be Kyle Shanahan. It wouldn't be Andy Reid because, as I said, running game. This team is loaded across the roster. Few question marks on the, especially the interior of the offensive line, but that apparently the people like Nate Tice have looked at that and said, no, the parts there seem to be gelling quite well during the preseason. They've got playmakers on defense, and they have weapons on the ground game and in the passing game. It's all on Trey Lance, and I know it's a shaky deal, but there's the rub. I think he can be very, very good.
The question you've got to ask yourself is, can he be some semblance of Robert Griffin III rookie season in Washington? That's the question, right? Can he do that? All the nonsense after that, San Francisco won't want no part of that, right? But can he be someone who has a specific way of playing, runs as well, and leads his team to the playoffs? And I think the answer to that is probably yes. I mean, let's be honest as well. This team is probably infinitely more talented at the skill positions than that Washington team was. Well, that Washington team did have decent players, Jackson and Garson and Reed and whatever. But Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, the running backs who they'll just, no point naming them because whichever ones I name, Kyle will listen to the podcast, choose the other two I didn't name and get them to run for 1,500 yards because that's how his brain works. Do I expect there to be teething problems? Yes. Do I expect him to be an elite passer? No. But do I expect this team to be good? Yes. I mean, I wish someone loved me as much as the likes of Ben Solak and et al. Like D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator, because that would be special. So this team, we focus a lot on Kyle and the offense, but this has a chance to be a very defense-heavy team. And if they are going to not concede many points, inconsistent quarterback may not be the issue, and then the more reps he gets, the more he will improve. I assume, this is a guy who, for a multitude of different reasons, has not thrown it a lot for a very long time in live action situations. So, it will be about reps this year, which is interesting because I think this team's got Super Bowl vibes about it. And to say, we're a Super Bowl contending team, but we've got a quarterback and we just want to get the reps to, is a bit weird.
This team was a play away from making the Super Bowl last year with a quarterback who could only dream of having the physical gifts and talents and upside of Trey Lance. This team did not get worse this offseason. Did it get better? I don't know. But the upside is there that they didn't have with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback.
Totally agree, Neil. Let's find out who Neil's fancy darling is on the 49ers.
Hello, darling.
This should come as absolutely no surprise to anyone. Anyone who's seen my writing, heard my talking, read my tweets. Brandon Ayuk. Here endeth the lesson.
Which is awesome because he's a major player in one of my dynasty leagues, and I'm hoping he's going to take me to victory. Neil, let's find out if Neil is not as high on in by everywhere.
It pains me, but it's George Kittle. Small sample size, but he did not show to have an efficient link-up and chemistry with Trey Lance last year. Obviously, I know that a lot has changed, but we know this team wants to run the ball. We know George Kittle loves to be in when they run the ball, and he loves to run block. I don't think this team can prop up 3 fantasy viable receivers. So I love Ayuk. I like Debo at his current price, although the last few weeks he's starting to go a bit earlier, and I can't get on board with that. They want to run the ball. They're going to take targets out of the game because Trey Lance is going to run himself. I think the third of 3 in the passing game is George Kittle, and that makes him someone I cannot draft at his ADP.
This year, George Kittle is in that situation where, in the opposite of what you were saying about Trey Lance, right, is that fantasy players will be like, oh, it's over with George Kittle, and the, Nate Tice's, Robert Mays' offensive line, Brandon Thorne's of this world, to be like, wow, what a season performance by George Kittle. Look at that blocking. Look at what he did to get those running back lanes and get Lance free. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And as you said, with an inconsistent quarterback, you don't particularly want him to have 6 or 7 options every play. So you think that Kittle might fall out on that. The San Francisco 49ers, more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all, Neil?
This is another one of those between Week 18 and Super Bowl. I think they're in the running for the division. And if things break right, well, we've seen they've got to the Super Bowl and they've got a click away with Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a contending team. I just don't think they're among the leading contenders. But they're going to be good.
Neil, we are in Munich on November 14th, I think. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that weekend. It is. We are flying back Monday morning on Week 10, Sunday Night Football, which would be 2:20 Munich time. It will be them against the Chargers. I think you could argue there's a possibility that they are the best 2 teams in the conferences at that point in time. Will Gavin will be trying to convince us to stay up and watch that game. Especially Ollie Hunter will probably be there as well in his soft spot for the Chargers. What I would say is, can these teams get off to a good start? Can the 49ers do it? I think they can. Week 1 at Chicago. Week 2 Seahawks. Week 3 at Denver, who we're not convinced by. Week 4 Rams, okay. Then at Carolina, at Atlanta. Could be 5-1 to start the season, and that's really beneficial when we're talking about the Rams, who we think might be a little bit slower given injuries to Stafford and missing OBJ. So I think this is a in the Super Bowl discussion team. I think probably this team wins the division. I think it could be argued. It's a toss of a coin, right? I'm not necessarily saying it either way, but I think there's an absolute possibility that this team can do it. I hope so. I have a soft spot for Kyle Shanahan, but yeah, we shall see. We shall see. And I mean, I'm no for my colleague on the touchdown review, Thomas Willoughby, who would marry Kyle Shanahan if he got the opportunity. Although we did the AFC preview this week, and because of his PTSD as a Falcons fan, he still picked the Patriots to win the AFC East.
To say that you would be something of a fan of Kyle Shanahan would be like saying I quite admire the work of Natalie Portman, wouldn't it?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Final team, Neil. Seattle Seahawks. Biggest off-season headline. is bye-bye to Russell Wilson the big question?
I ask the questions.
Is this team serious?
This team is dog shit from top to bottom. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've said they were Arsenal, and they were just satisfied to get in. They ain't getting in. They ain't getting close. Should have blown it up. They didn't. This is going to be bloody awful. Bloody awful.
This team, based on its coaching, how his coach's brain works, I think they are competitive at all times. And to be fair to this team, and I know you've given them the Arsenal situation, that's understandable. Although I do think there was more chance of Seattle winning the Super Bowl than Arsenal winning the Premier League in the same situation, but I do understand what you're saying. This team thinks it's going to win football games with either Geno Smith or Drew Lock as its quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a serious football team. It's not. I look at the certain teams, you're not serious. We laugh at Washington, and we should do, because they're a joke. But they can tell me a story where Carson Wentz won games last year with Indianapolis, and maybe it wasn't all his fault. I don't believe that. But I'm not having anyone telling me that they watched Drew Lock last year or Geno in his one game and that's going to be a situation that works. It's just not. I'm just not having it. No way.
No, there is. This team is, one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. No one should care because the quality of player tasked with getting them the ball. Their offensive line is yet again, a work in progress. With all the weakness on this team, they invested a second-round draft pick on a running back after giving Rashard Penny a one-year deal. I hate telling people it's time to go. They should go themselves. But Pete Carroll is delusional. If he thinks this is a competitive team, if he thinks this roster in its current setup is going to be competitive in this division in 2022, it's going to be it's going to be absolute disaster.
It's when uber positivity just becomes criminal insanity, and I think we have reached that stage with Pete. Although throws a mean ball, so maybe he will be starting by maybe week 6 or 7. I think this is going to be a tough one, Neil, but I'd quite like a fancy darling on the Seattle Seahawks.
Hello, darling.
Despite the clowns who are going to be thrown on the ball, we can't ignore Tyler Lockett, especially if he's dropping to the 9th and 10th round, which is where I've seen him go in some drafts. This team wants to run the ball. They want to run the ball when they're competitive. They want to run the ball when they're behind. But they're going to have to throw the ball. So maybe Lockett looks into a decent role. He's not going to be a wide receiver 2. He's certainly not going to be a wide receiver 1. But from where he's going, he could certainly touch wide receiver 3 airspace. DK Metcalf as well is probably going to be a solid wide receiver 2 based on touchdowns if he can get them. But other than that, there's no gold in this team. It's the 2 receivers and move away.
I think we're about to find out that Neil's going to give us 20 people, but let's find out who the buyer beware is.
Film grinders tell us that Kenneth Walker was probably the most pure runner coming into the league in this draft. Who gives a crap? Team can't run block. They're not going to pass him the ball. They're not going to score touchdowns. And apparently he's behind Rashard Penny, who's a picture of health himself. So Ken Walker, no, I don't want any part of it. I don't want timeshare running backs who don't catch the ball in dog shit offences.
It's pretty clinical. The Seattle Seahawks, I think we know the answer to this one as well. More likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all, Neil?
Draftniks, start looking now.
I'm going to give you their out of division road schedule. They play at the Lions, at the Saints, at the Chargers, at the Chiefs. Ouch. Ouch.
Yep.
Ouch. And then obviously you have to go on the road to the teams in your division, all of which are better than you. This team is a draft next team, and the sooner they embrace that scenario, the better. They should be finding out who is young and good on their roster and dealing with that accordingly. Because there's a chance this is not pretty for Seattle. I think there's a big chance. The Mina Kimes of this world, the Danny Kellys, they're not going to like their favourite team this year because it's not going to be good.
It really isn't.
And this is the worst team in this division, I think, quite comfortably. So, Neil, Rams or 49ers to win this division for you?
I'm going to take the Rams.
Again,
blue sky thinking, assuming everything's happy and Stafford is healthy, I'll take them. They've got the quarterback who's done it.
Do you expect both of these top two teams to make the playoffs, however?
Yes.
Okay, I'll flip them around, same thing. I'll do 49ers, Rams. Just because looking at the schedule and that start the 49ers have, they may have got in front and just be able to hang on throughout it. I don't see the Cardinals making the playoffs, and as we said, there's a chance, there's an argument that the Seattle Seahawks could be the worst team in the NFC. All being said, although there are some challenges for that, I'm looking at you, Atlanta and Chicago. Neil, that is it for the division preview. Next week will be predictions, but before we get to our prediction show, where can people catch you?
People can follow me on Twitter at ndutton13. I usually have stuff here that I plug, that I've written, but I haven't written anything. What I would ask, however, is a moment of your time. If you are anyone who's listening, a close friend of mine and the captain of my cricket club, Paul McKenna, went on family holiday to Mexico over the last few weeks, and on his last day suffered a stroke. He is now seriously ill still in Mexico with his family. He has a wife, he has young children, and the medical costs are absolutely astonishingly out of this world for the treatment that he currently needs. I will happily send out the link again for the Just Giving page that we've set up at the club by his best mate, our second team captain, Jay Stanley. Any donations that anyone can give will be appreciated. This is a horrible situation at a horrible time for one of the good guys, someone that everyone I spoke to, and you see all around, everyone likes Paul. So we just want him to, we want him to get better, but at the moment he's so ill that they can't even bring him home because it's not fit for him to fly, and the costs are horrendous. So we're just trying to do as much as we can to help. So I will send out the Just Giving link. Please, if you can. I know I hate asking for it, because I know obviously everyone's struggling the way it's going, the cost of living and everything, but any help that anyone can give will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Fantastic stuff, Neil. And yeah, Neil will send that out and we'll get it retweeted around. And yeah, it's an horrific situation. We hope everything is as good as it can be as soon as possible. Neil is at ndutton13. I am at Mainsy7. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. We'll be back next week with the prediction show. For now, these top guys are out.